Make sure y'all can hear me. Hold on. My thing is saying my battery.
Let me put this here for y'all. Because I want y'all to hear me. Because nobody told me. No one told me about Generation Alpha kids, okay? No one told me about Generation Alpha kids. And listen, for you young mamas out there, you young parents, or you ones, they got kids that's the girls' age, you know, like going to the 11th grade or something like that. Listen, y'all need to tap in. Tap in. I'm trying to find this piece for my thing. Y'all need to tap in because y'all need to come get the girl. Let me tell y'all what she done did. Okay? I got my little thing. Let me tell y'all what she done did. Make sure y'all can hear me. So I don't even know what the little part that's supposed to be like the little foam thing. Okay? Listen, y'all. Let me tell y'all what the girl done did. So last night, okay, I like to do a lot of times I'll make some steak and asparagus on the grill. Okay? Because you know, I like to be a little bougie sometimes. So I go outside in my long robes and my long house gowns or whatever, you know what I'm saying, flowing, you know. And I'll go out there and I have my little music playing. I'll go out there and put me some steaks on the grill with some asparagus. And I'll have me a little red wine, you know what I'm saying? If you know, you know. So, of course, I can't eat steak and don't get a girl steak. So yesterday, I was like, okay, bet. I wanted some steak and asparagus. So I did my normal ritual. I was like, okay, girl. And I also made her some rice because I know she can't, you know what I'm saying, protein in a vegetable ain't going to hold her over. She needs some starch, okay? So I made her a little rice or whatever. All right, there you go. Let her know everything was good in the oven, okay? So that's what she did. Next thing I know, I come in the house after a while because I ate my dinner on the back porch, okay? I ate my dinner on the back porch, listening to my music, drinking my wine, you know, eating my dinner, right? Doing what I do, okay? Doing what I do in my 50s, okay? So I go in the house. So now I got to put away whatever, right? Because it's getting a little darker. So I go in the house. Let me straighten away the kitchen. I look in the garbage can and her whole steak is sitting in the garbage can. I was like, what? I was like, come here, girl. You mean to tell me? Now these was I think I paid like $18, okay? Oh, they was the boneless ones, right? And I, you know, cooked it to perfection like always. You know, I guess she didn't want it. She didn't really want it. She didn't have a taste for it. So instead of her putting it in, and like I told her, girl, you better not ever ask me for another piece of steak again. Because when I was a kid, we got cube steaks, okay? And I'm at the point now where I can afford to buy her, to feed her what I eat. So if I'm eating a T-bone, she get a T-bone, right? I don't care if they 2-pack for $38, $40, depending on if you get them Sam's Club. And whatever she don't eat, okay, just take a piece of it off because I'm going to eat the rest, right? Maybe the later meal or whatever. But yesterday, she decided to just throw the whole thing in the trash. I was like, what the? I was like, girl, you better not ever ask me for, as long as you live, you better not ever ask me for another steak. I don't give a dang on. Listen, from here on out, when I eat steak, you better eat ramen noodles. If I eat steak, you eat ramen noodles, okay? Or you're going to get a cube steak, okay? But I ain't cooking two different meals. I'm going to put a hot dog on the grill for her if I eat a steak. Because you mean to tell me that $18 steak, you just threw it away? So then, today, I go in her room, right? Because I had went and got her some summer clothes. Because I'm like, okay, summertime, make sure she got some summer clothes. And I left the gym, whatever. I look up, and she got all my snacks in her room. Okay, now y'all know them snacks that, you know, us mothers eat, you know, like them Frappuccinos, you know, we have them from Sam's Club, you know, the jars, you know, sometimes you make your own, sometimes you might cheat and buy them from the Sam's Club in a little bulk or whatever, right? So I had some in the refrigerator. I don't drink them every day, so, you know, a pack of them might last me for a while, right? I think it come about 18 of them in a pack or whatever, so if I go to Sam's Club and get a pack, they may last me a while. I looked in her room. She got the doggone, she got the bottles in her room. Not only that, but I also noticed that she has my, the skinny popcorns. Now, y'all know, see, here's the thing. I rationed her snacks out to her, and I told her she wasn't getting no Takis for a while, because let me tell you how the girl is. If I go to Sam's Club and buy her a 48-pack of them little big bag of Takis, if I don't ration them out to her, she will eat them in 3 days. No, that's not what you're doing. You're not doing that. So I have to ration them out. So when it comes to snacks, Listen, I found, I know kids steal snacks because she be stashing it everywhere. So I told her I wouldn't buy her no more snacks because I was like, you got the rest of them Takis in there, and I was like, you know what, I'm not buying no more snacks because of a lot of things. I was like, you know what, because you're not gonna be around here. No, we're not doing none of that because we're not doing none of that. So I guess she said, well, you know what, if you won't buy me no snacks, I'll eat your snacks. So I'm like, so y'all didn't tell me these kids in this generation is built different. Like, we believed our mamas when she told us, don't touch her snacks, don't touch her stuff. And if we did sneak it, it was just certain things that we did that we just we didn't do because we already knew. But then on top of that, the me and me to tell me you got it like that where you could throw away a doggone $18 steak. And I said, well, you know what, Lord, she don't know. I said, but I tell you what, because she don't know what it's like to be without. And I understand that. So I made sure she understood very clearly. Listen, don't do that ever again. There are certain things where you just don't do, and that's one of them. Because you don't understand the price of nothing because you're 11, right? And I always remind her, listen, one thing I know about life is there's levels to this, right? There is levels to this, right? Because I remember when I was married, when I was younger, and there would be times where, because we had 4 kids combined. So, of course, everybody wasn't getting no doggone T-bone steaks. So there were times where me and my husband and I, my ex-husband now, I would buy us T-bone steaks, and I would buy the kids the other kind of steaks, right? And I, make sure it's chopped up, really spiced up real good and tenderized real good. But for the most part, though, I'm not giving them a T-bone. And I remember my oldest son asked that question. He said, why we don't get a T-bone steak? I said, you get a T-bone steak when you can afford a T-bone steak. That's when you get a T-bone steak. You know what I mean? Because if you get a steak, it may not be a T-bone, but it's a pretty good steak. In his mind, he felt like he needed a T-bone too. And now that he's 30, he understands a T-bone steak ain't easy to come by. And you ain't about to get a steak, every other meal. Because they had steaks at least once a week. We had steaks at least once a week, right? And even with a family of 6 or 7, we would still make sure. So some things are earned. And so that's why I try to remind the girl that this life ain't promised like this. You got to, when you start not understanding something and not understanding the value of something, you know what I mean? That's just it's a lot. And I know we have to constantly put it in their heads because one thing I won't do is I don't want my children to have to understand certain levels of life because I feel like I've worked too hard and I've sacrificed too much for my children to go through certain things. Like, I don't want them to start at the bottom. I did the grunt work. You know what I mean? I did a lot of the grunt work. I don't want them to start there. But at the same time, I want them to understand that this is a privilege and this is something that is earned, not given. And that's something that we have to make sure we always encourage our children. And I don't know what good of a job I did that with my other kids, but I know for sure that they get it. Like, my son now, my oldest son, my 30-year-old is in the Army now. And he went in, enlisted even with a bachelor's degree that I made sure he had, but whatever. But I say all that to say that he's like, I'm sorry. Like mama. He said, in the things that I taught him, he told me, he said, a lot of these kids, he said, they don't know a lot of basic stuff. And I said, yeah, because they didn't have parents that knew much of nothing. A lot of people didn't, whatever your parents, what your parents don't know, you don't know. I'm like, my mother had me at 16. What was she going to teach me? So there was some things that I had to just go out there and learn on my own. And so I tried to make sure with my oldest son, I drilled a lot of things in him. But at the same time, what I recognize is that there was times when I rescued him too many times, right? And I would give him a forewarning, and I think that's why it did take him 10 years to get his bachelor's degree. Because like I told him, my step to you was to make sure you had options like me. When I was a kid, I didn't have options. I didn't have the kind of options where I knew I can go to college. That wasn't an option for me. It was never an option for me. My mother was on welfare most of my life, so going to college was never an option for me. So at 12, I knew the Army it was, and because at the minimum, they would pay for my education. Well, with my kids, I wanted them to have a choice. You can either go in the military, go to a trade school, go to a whatever school. You can do whatever school you want to go to. Whatever you want to do, I'm going to at least give you that, right? Because I want you to have I want you to choose have a choice, right? And so now that my son is at that age that he's realizing that, he said, even relationships he's been in, he's like, they'll look at him like, how you know all this? I'm like, because I would try to tell my son, I don't know what my life was going to be like. When his father and I divorced, I didn't know what our life was going to be like. And by me being at that time, a single mom, I'm like, I need you to be able to survive out here on your own without me. Like I had to make sure that he was doing things. And my mother would tell me, she'd be like, Yashika, you making him do too much. No, I'm not. Like, he need to know how to wash his own clothes. You understand what I'm saying? He need to know how to iron his own clothes out. You know what I mean? Like, I ain't got time to be doing all that. Like, he need to know how to, I don't care about him being 10 or 11. Like, I don't care about that. Get the iron your clothes out. In other countries, these kids do this for a living. They can do this every day. Why is it optional for our kids? Right? Because we have to teach them life lessons, because a lot of them don't know. There are colleges right now that are offering kids life lesson skills, because a lot of them don't know, because parents, we don't really have the time to really teach, right? But I think a lot of it with me, I was learning as I was being a parent. And so whatever the things that I felt like I should have been known, because in my mind, I always looked at it like I was behind everybody. Like, one of the things that if somebody told me to do, and that's why I'm okay in life, but even still, I felt like I should have been further along. My uncle, no one ever gave me financial advice. No one ever gave me financial advice. However, my Uncle Cal, my mom's oldest brother, when I first entered the military, he told me, he said, buy you some savings bonds. I didn't ask no questions. I didn't do nothing. As soon as I paid off my GI Bill, I had been in the Army for about a year. In my mind, I thought, well, if I've been surviving without this $100 that the GI Bill was taken out, then I could still survive without it. Like, I could live without it. So I'll go ahead and buy savings bonds with those. And so that's what I did in the beginning of my military career, was I bought savings bonds. And that was all that I knew about savings bonds. That was all I knew about savings bonds, what my uncle told me. So, and it was one of those things where I let someone tell me, well, they ain't no good. Why you do that, right? Now, from that point, I started to put my money into IRAs. However, I was like, well, wait a minute. Now, this person told me this, and they ain't got nothing. So I knew I couldn't really take too much more financial advice from that person. But for me, I knew that I had to be smarter. So I kept the savings bonds. And then when I had my sons, I actually got them savings bonds. So when I would have them, like, I got the oldest savings bond I have is the birth month of my oldest son. So my oldest son was born March of 1995, because, shit got tight, especially when I first divorced, right? I had to use a lot of my savings bonds. They were only $100 at a time, so I was saving about $1,200 a year. And at that point, I had only been in the Army for a few years, so it wasn't that much I had saved, but sometimes I would have to cash them. But one savings bond that I keep always is the one that I bought for my son that was dated March of 1995, which is his birth month. And so that one's 30-something years old. You know what I mean? It's 30 years old. And so when I go online, I know that it's double. And it's not about a savings bond, because, it isn't that much. I think it's maybe about, I think it was a $250 savings bond. And so it's probably worth about maybe, I think, $500 some dollars, something like that. I can't remember. However, it was just one of those things where I remember, even when I didn't have it to do, I still made sure I did it, because I knew that later on these things were going to be important. And so these are the type of things that I tried to instill in my kids. Like I know it's hard to save money. Like you telling me, I remember when I first came back to the States, when I was newly divorced from my first husband, I got to Fort Hood, Texas. And once my little car note was paid and my son's daycare was paid, like, I literally got paid about $200 some every 3 months. Every 2 weeks. It's $300 some every 2 weeks. And out of that $300 some, I still had to pay my rent. Right? So I know all that. I know what that's like. And then on top of that, I didn't have nobody I can call. There was nobody I can call and say, hey, I need help. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, you look at life and you be like, yeah. So when I look at my savings bonds, those are the things that I'm glad I did those, because I didn't know anything. So I can still say that I did it that way and learn. So those are skills that people don't tell people, because a lot of people don't know themselves. And so what I'm talking to my daughter about is, listen, honey, you can't just be throwing steaks in a doggone garbage can. Okay? Like, you could, like you cut it up, because all she did was bite on it, and she ate all the rice. I guess by the time she ate the rice, she didn't want the steak. She threw the steak in the trash. Girl. And then on top of that, with the snacks, I'm like, listen, you feel really entitled. Like, I have to make sure that she understands that, listen, my life is my life, because that's something I had to talk to with my oldest son about. My life is my life. Yes, I'm going to always make sure that you have more than me, but you still got to do your part. Because unless I'm super duper rich and I got enough money, like Jay-Z and Beyonce, for example, they probably got enough money to take care of maybe the next 5 or 10 lifetimes. Ain't nobody got to do nothing. Okay, I ain't got that kind of money. Okay, I got enough that you ain't got to start from the bottom. Okay, you ain't got to start from the bottom, but you got to sustain, because the average lifespan is this much right here. You got to sustain your own self. And once you get a certain age, I'm not taking care of you no more, because I plan on downsizing. Like, everybody got to do their part in this world to be citizens of this world. You can't depend on your parents. Like, your parents trying to listen. Okay, they didn't have it all figured out. They didn't have it all figured out. My mama didn't have it all figured out. My daddy didn't have it all figured out. My mama stayed. My daddy didn't. My daddy said, you know what? I'm not, you know what? I'm out. So for him, it was optional. My mama said, you know what? It ain't optional for me. So I'm going to go ahead and say, I don't know what to tell these kids except these things right here. Yashika, don't get pregnant. Charles, don't go to jail. That's all she could tell us. Anything in between those things, as long as you don't do nothing crazy, you could probably be all right. So don't do nothing to get pregnant, and don't do nothing to go to jail. That's it. And that's it. That was our perimeters. So the way my mother was, it was like coloring in the coloring book, right? She would give us a picture, and we would color in the coloring book, right? In the lines. Y'all know the coloring books had the black lines, right? The outline. As soon as we stepped out that damn line, mama said, okay, get on back over here. And she would skull drag us back to in those parameters. Why? Because I already know this is going to lead you here. And I already know this is going to lead you here. So stop acting like you invincible, Yashika. Stop acting like you invincible, Charles. So we needed a person like our mama. Because our mama was like, listen, I don't know nothing, but I know this ain't right here. And that's how my brother and I are to this day. I don't know. Listen, I know what I know, but I know dumb stuff when I hear it. And what I do know about people is behavior. And so that's why it's like important to keep, like for me, I have to keep reminding my kids totally. Now my middle boy, he got it, because I told him, listen, BJ, I'm going to tell y'all this before I go. I had a solid plan for him when he went to college. This plan would have got him 4 years of college. And not only that, but it would have saved him $50,000 at the end of that college, plus allow him to pay for his college where he would have had zero debt, of course, because his father and I are retired military. Well, those colleges were public schools, like Virginia State, schools like that, or Virginia Commonwealth. However, none of those schools was offering him scholarships, right? So he had to pay out of pocket, which means it would cut into all of the money that I said he can plan, that he would have. Because I was like, after you graduate, you want to have a nest egg. And this is the time to get it while you in college. Because I can't tell you another time that you're going to be getting free money like this. Because I ain't never got free money like this, okay? I ain't never got free money like this, okay? Well, ended up being where he decided, well, I want to play football. These people over here is offering me a place on the football, on the field. But that's because he came with money. So it was a private college. So of course, both colleges that he attended, they were private. He got to pay out the money, which means there goes to $50,000. And oh yeah, by the way, you better hope you have enough money to last you the rest of your college years, because now you're paying every semester. Well, time come and all of that went away shortly. And so my son like, okay, well now what I got to do to go to school? Because now I got to finish, right? Because benefits have ran out, whatever. And like I told him, son, figure it out first before you come to me. Why? Because I had a plan. You and your father decided that football was more important. And hey, it is. Because you can always say you are part of the 1% that pay at a collegiate level, right? Or 2%, whatever it is, that pay at a collegiate level. However, your choices still come with consequences. So for you to graduate in 2026, you may have to take out a loan to cover that last year, because now by you paying for a private college, money looks different. And he was living his best life. He was all up in Mexico. He was in Florida. He was in Texas. Listen, he was living his best life. Okay. He got his own apartment, his own car. He living his best life. Okay. But now the money ain't where it was. Okay. So how are you going to pay for that last year's school? Because since you didn't go to this college, this school requires a payment, as opposed to being a military veteran's child. You would have got your school bill exonerated. It would have been dismissed. Whenever you have a child in the state of Virginia, certain states, right? And of course, Virginia laws is trying to change, but I ain't worried about it, because I worry about it. But anyway, the way it is when you retire military is, if you live in a state where your child goes to college and they go to a public school, like Virginia State or Virginia Commonwealth or something like that, then if you are 100% veteran, your child's college is totally exempt from the thing, right? Now granted, our last governor tried to change that, and now we got a new governor coming in, so I'm not worried about it for the girl. But those are the things that by BJ choose, my middle boy choosing a different route of college, that being a private school, that doesn't apply, which means that now he has to pay for each semester. So it was a different type of funding that was needed, right? And so I just say all this because this is the kind of person that we are as parents. Sometimes You have to let them figure it out on their own. And so my son, he was able to figure it out on his own. He said, Mom, I got the rest of the school year covered, and I think I got the summertime covered. He was like, I'm good until January of 2026. I'm like, okay, bet. Now, I'm not saying I'm not going to help you, but what I am saying is that you got to figure it out for yourself first, right? Because those are skills that they need. Like, they have to be able to they have to be able to figure things out on their own. Like, we can't solve all their problems for them. I hear parents saying, well, I still feel guilty because my child didn't have a father. Listen, we all got something to feel guilty about as parents. Like, I can tell you, I probably got something. Like, my kids, like I know my sons are like me. They are a-holes. Like, they are. And I know they got it from me, my brother, and my mama. Like, we all are. Like, I'm sorry, but we are. My brother and I talk about it all the time because we just don't have that. I don't have time to listen to sorrow stories, those woe is me stories, right? Because I understand what it's like to, like, you, I'm going to sit with you for a little while right there, but I ain't about to stay stuck with you like that. I'm not that friend. And I got friends that want me to do that, and I can't. And therefore, I don't have those friends no more. If you still telling me the same story 5 years ago about why you depressed, I'm not saying you're not depressed. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is that you can't keep telling me that's why you ain't done nothing different because of something that happened 5 years ago, right? Like, we still got to live. We still have to live. It ain't going to be perfect. It ain't going to be pretty. Ain't none of this perfect or pretty, but we still have to go on. And if it's anything, as long as that nobody died, like, you can get through anything really. So, okay, we all get our heart broken. We all being related. I didn't been divorced twice, right? It's many a nights I sit here and say, well, damn, did I make a mistake? Nope, I sure didn't. Did not make my one mistake. And y'all know how I know? Listen, if y'all have not subscribed over on the Ex-Newmys over on YouTube, y'all need to go ahead and do so, because the episode that I dropped on Monday, listen, that one brought me to my knees. Okay, when I rewatched that one, I was like, you know what? We was living two different lives. You mean to tell me we were separated in 2008? This is what I figured out. This is what I found out when I watched this video over. I didn't know we were separated in 2008, right? So I was like, wow, but we were. I was like, well, I know your mail still came to the house. I know your kids were still at the house, and I was taking care of them and I was feeding them. I know we still had bank to bank. I ain't never known you to sleep outside the house except with maybe once a month or whatever. You might go down there and don't come back to Barstow, but I didn't know we were separated. But what I'm saying is that this is how I know that this shit ain't pretty for nobody, right? And this is why on the Ex-Newmys we tell the story, because despite of anything, you still got to work towards the goal, which is for us to provide a better life for our kids, right? So that they can take care of their kids. It ain't going to be perfect, but I don't want you to struggle like I do. But at the same time, you got to know that this life is earned, not given. This life is earned, not given. People tell me all the time, you know what, Yashika? Maybe I should have joined the army like you. Maybe. But people think, well, you thought it was easy? Ain't nothing easy. I was one of the lucky ones that came home with my 10 fingers and 10 toes and my 2 arms and my 2 legs, right? Not everybody does that. Not everybody does that, right? I was one of the lucky ones. And if y'all don't know, all gave some gave all. And it's just that simple. And so, but people will look at it like, you know what, it's just being tough. No, they mess with you more here than anywhere else. They mess with you more here than anywhere else. And you think about it, if there's only 1% of the population of people that serve, the 1%, there's only like 10% of us that gets to retirement age. Make you think about that, right? There's a very, very small number that can stay to 20 years to get to retirement. Very, very small number, right? But those who do get there and get there where we ain't gonna never be whole, but our disabilities are not visible, right? And we're just the lucky ones. That's it. But me and Newmy talk about this over on Ex-Newmy. We talk about our life in the military. We talk about the struggles while we were trying to figure things out with the life that we live. We both came from homes that was our homes, but we took good and bad from that. Just like everything. Just like growing up, like everybody has some things that they wish they could have done differently. But one thing about the platform over there is what we're talking about is just giving that exposure. We're admitting to our mistakes, but we still did not keep our eyes off the prize. We didn't. We kept our eyes on the prize at all times, which was to get these kids to a better spot than we were in life. And we tell our story over on there. So if you have not subscribed to the Ex-Newmys and went over there and listen, because eventually it's going to turn into a season 2 and you don't want to miss that. But anyway, I'm going to go now. And I hope y'all pick something up from this live. And I don't know who this is for, but I know it's for somebody, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.